Thanks for the comment. Today we're going to talk about another story, but this one way local. It's not about caves, but it's about a diver passing away in the water. The common theme that all of the comments from the previous video is that how did these people pass away in the water? So, and there's always a common ground, and I'll cover that at the very end. So up the road from me, there's a place called Portal Cove. It's a dedicated scuba park meant for scuba training. There's a bunch of artificial reefs in there, meaning that there are ships that's been cleaned and they sank and they put them there so that divers can go around checking it out. On the very, very far end, there is a wreck called the Nikaya. The Nikaya is an old minesweeper from a really long time ago, and it's wooden. And basically from the weight of the water sitting on it, the whole thing's starting to collapse. Midship is a big opening cavernous area. Essentially it's open to the sea. It sits around like 85 feet of water at lower tide, 95 it's on higher tide. So basically, going back to some years ago now, a fairly inexperienced dive team, so a guy and a girl, they went out to do this dive. The woman was very inexperienced, a very new diver, and the guy had more experience, but also very inexperienced because he's a newer diver. So here it was his dive plan. He wanted to get a picture. Yeah, it's his big camera, fairly expensive one that he just got, and he wanted to get a picture of the diver above him, right? So she was supposed to model for him, and he was supposed to be underneath and take this picture. So his plan was he was going to overweight himself with weight belt, take his fins off, and then just stand inside the wreck and look up and take a photo. And of course, there's no dive training that tells you to overweight yourself and to take your fins off ever. That's just not a thing. So of course, because he was an inexperienced diver and because he didn't have fins for propulsion, he was exerting a lot of energy, breathing a ton. He basically ran out of air. So he swam up to her, but instead of a calm fashion indicating that he's out of air, and her, with her training, being able to donate air to him, and then both of them can go up, he scrambled and tried to claw at her face, trying to rip the regulator out of her mouth, and she panicked, rightly so, because this guy's like trying to rip the only air source out of her mouth. And he wouldn't let go of this heavy camera, wouldn't drop the weight belt that he had, which is, all of these things are part of your training as a scuba diver. And then, so at some point, she is now in full-blown panic. She bolts for the surface, kicks him off. No argument there. I would have done the same thing. And then she survived the dive. She bolted to the surface, and he sunk to the bottom, and never let go of the camera, and never dropped his weight, and it didn't have his fin. So when the recovery divers went up to get his body, fins were laying around, set aside nicely, and no fins, overweighted, and so on. So there's another one for you. Do not exceed your training.